So here's a bit of a treat today. We're going to take a walk from New Passage to Severn Beach to walk under the second Severn crossing, or the Prince of Wales Bridge as we could really rightly call it, as it was renamed. It was first opened in 1996. That's 30 years after the original Severn crossing, which was of course a suspension bridge, was opened before. It was built as a joint consortium. Lang I think were part of that consortium. And it was a huge civil engineering project, and my dad and I came many times to see the bridge being built. And indeed, I think at one point, I started selling cups of tea down there to try and get a bit of income in at the time, 1990s. I was a struggling student, I think. So, lots of engineers and stuff used to come down, and just local people who were interested in it, and people from far and wide. But you can see the enormous size of it. It's about, I think, 36 metres wide or something like that. So it's a big old beast, and it's incredibly largely built. Here we are just standing on the flood defences and looking at these enormous caissons. They're about, I think, 96 metres apart, some of them over 2,000 tonnes. And they were moved by the same sort of machine that moves the Apollo Saturn 5 rocket, none less. It's great you can walk underneath it because you can really get a sense of the size of it. I mean, it looks pretty big from a mile away, but up close, it's absolutely enormous. Each one of those sort of hollow concrete sections, you can see the marks where they were actually cast against one another, so they were a perfect fit. Each one of those was around 200 tons, I think, and all built like cantilever construction. The central span of the bridge is pretty impressive. It's known as Chute's Bridge, and that alone has got a span of 450 metres. And I think it contrasts really well with the overall viaduct cantilever construction of the main bridge. Anyway, here we are, going back to good old New Passage. As we walk away from Severn Beach towards New Passage, it's worth remembering that Severn Beach used to be a holiday retreat, and it had its own sort of little fun fair and a Lido. But obviously, as sophistication of travel and international flight came along, it sort of did close down. But it had a big hotel there and all sorts. It was a real Victorian place to stay and take the fresh sea air. You can see both the Severn Bridge and the Prince of Wales Bridge in the same place here, down by New Passage, and it's really nice walking along the sort of sea wall, which is obviously significantly fortified. And actually, these flood defences are being revised again down at Ost, and with good reason. The Severn's got one of the highest tidal ranges in the world, over 11 metres. And, we've seen some tides here where the water has been on this roadway. It's not really a roadway, but it's for emergency vehicles and access. I was told that some 5 billion cubic metres of water an hour go in and out of this as a result of the huge tidal forces at bear here. Anyway, we're back to pretty much New Passage now, which also has got an interesting tale around how to get over the Severn. In the 1800s, up until about 1886, I think, you could get a broad gauge. Cool, good old Brunel's broad gauge. That was the right way of doing it, wasn't it? What a shame we ended up with narrow gauge, but that's a completely different story. Passengers were able to get a ferry from here. The train would come from Bristol on broad gauge, and there was a sort of wooden jetty that went about 500 metres into the Severn here. And passengers would decant from the train and get on a ferry, and they'd go over to Wales, or I guess the vice versa. So, but that was defunct at the end of the 1800s, when, of course, the incredible Severn Tunnel was built, which interestingly is about, I think, 500 metres upstream of the second Severn crossing. And actually, I think the entrance to it is in Severn Beach somewhere. So, an incredible engineering over the years has been to try and tame this enormous estuary and its great width, of course. Severn crossing there, the Prince of Wales Bridge, about 5 kilometres across. And that's the old hotel. Look at the chimneys. Can you imagine the amount of coal they'd kept going in that place? Anyway, thanks so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video.